Do you ever need a card and you need it now? Or really, you needed it like 5 minutes ago, but you have 5 minutes right now and you need to get a card done, start to finish? I have a beautiful card design to share with you today that you can complete literally, honestly, in a minute or probably 2 minutes for a card. It is beautiful. There are a lot of different ways to change it up that I'm going to share with. I'll start with my basic card design, but then I'll share a lot of different ways to switch it up and alter it a little bit so that you can use this design over and over for years to come on quick and easy cards. Now make sure you stick around to the end, because at the end I'm going to share some tips for mass producing these cards if you like to. They'd make amazing Christmas cards or other cards that you need a lot of, maybe invitations for a shower or something like that. I'll share tips for mass producing them over and over, and tips, even if you're just going to make one or a couple, for how to do those even quicker and easier as well. To make these cards, I started with a piece of 4 by 5¼ inch cardstock. I put it in the base of my stamparatus and I lined up that swoosh stamp where I was going to be able to stamp it towards the center, but a little bit higher than the center. What I want is to be able to stamp this 3 times on top of each other. So stamp once and then move down a little bit, stamp a second time, move down a little bit and stamp it again. So I get 3 of those swooshes. And then once I have that, I'm going to add my stamps of interest on top. So I line this up, I attach it to my plate of my stamparatus. I ink up the stamp it 1 time, and then I'm going to lift that plate out of my stamparatus. This is one of my absolute favorite features of the stamparatus. Put it back in, move that hinge one hinge down, put the plate back in, ink up my stamp again, stamp a second time, lift that plate out, move it down 1 more, ink it up and stamp a 3rd time. Once I have those 3 swooshes, that just makes a beautiful background for this card with so very little work. And once we have that background, we can add anything we want on top. Now from this Season of Chic stamp set, I have several options that you'll see on a lot of my card samples. I have the flowers, the leaves, the shells, and the snowflakes, so we can make them for different seasons. We can make them for a lot of different occasions. So after I had the swooshes stamped, I stamped 3 of those flowers over top. I added a greeting. And this is the basic part of our card here. I took this and added it over top of a typical card base, and I have a beautiful card. Now, if I want to, I can add a few embellishments, but I don't need to. I think this is just a beautiful card design that is so quick and easy to create. And as you'll see here over the next few minutes, there are so many different ways to change this up, use it in a lot of different ways that you can keep using this card design without it becoming stale in your card collection. I'll share a few ways I've used this basic card design before we move on and look at how to step this up a little bit, change it, and do some more fun things with it. I do want to give a shout out to my friend Sue for inspiring this video and sharing the basic swoosh card idea with me. I took it and I ran with it and came up with some really fun ways to use it. So thanks so much, Sue. I also want to mention that you don't have to have a stamparatus or a stamping platform to do this. You can stamp that swoosh in the background 3 times on your own, just with a regular stamping block. The stamparatus just makes it really nice to make sure they're all aligned and they're straight. So how can you change these up? You can change the color of cardstock you're stamping on. You can change the colors of ink you're using for the swoosh, of course. Change up the color that you're stamping on top with. There's so many combinations just to switch those things up. But then when you change the stamps you're using, maybe we're using these other stamps, the seashells and the leaves and the snowflakes. You can stamp several of different images, or you can stamp 3 of the same like I shared. Now, what if you use three different colors of ink for the swooshes? I love the look of especially the 3 really bright colors on those swooshes. And then what if we use a really large image to stamp over top? What the large flower image from that fresh cut flower stamp set. And then you're going to see here in a little bit what we can do if we stamp a large greeting over top, which is a really neat look as well. Now let's step this up and do something really interesting with the same basic card design. So I'm starting by, I've placed some grid paper in the base of my stamparatus. This is going to help contain my extra ink because I'll be stamping off the edge of my cardstock this time. I mounted the swoosh down to the lower portion of my stamping plate. And I'm starting with my cardstock piece this time down towards the bottom, and you'll see why here in just a second. So I am going to demonstrate this here with an ombre effect, going from dark ink to light ink. But as you'll see, as you'll see here, I did the same technique with rainbow colors and it turned out really neat. I just love how that turned out. So I'll ink up my stamp the first time and open that plate back up. Then I am going to move my cardstock. This is what gives us this even pattern. And again, you could do this with a regular stamping block, but with the stamparatus here, I'm able to get really nice even positioning. And if I don't stamp completely the first time, then I can repeat it and stamp a second time. So I stamped the first time, open that plate back up, and I'm moving my cardstock 3 blocks to the left and 3 blocks up on my grid paper, which is the same as 3/4 of an inch to the left, 3/4 of an inch up. I'm going to stamp a second time, and then I am going to move that cardstock again. Each time I move the cardstock 3 blocks left, 3 blocks up, and I stamp again with that swoosh stamp. Now when I'm done, I'm going to add one of these large greetings. I just love these large greetings, how they look on the cards from this Good Feeling stamp set. And I think it's a really nice way to just create a really nice, pretty, bold card without a lot of work. Let's look at a couple of different ways I've used this swoosh stamp for backgrounds on cards. And then I want to get into a few more time-saving tips and ideas for how you can mass produce these cards in no time at all. So here you can see I've used that swoosh stamp to create different patterns on the background. I used it the one time to stamp just all across the background of the card at the same direction, basically horizontally, and then I added the flower and the seashell stamps on top. On the other one, I stamped with one color horizontally, I stamped with another color vertically to get more of like a plaid or a crosshatch type pattern before I put the other stamps and greeting on top. So with abstract stamps like this, there are so many ways to use them. And at times I almost think that I like abstract stamps more than I like stamps of, you know, specific things like flowers or animals, because they can be used in so many different ways. But without the flowers and the other things on top, these cards definitely wouldn't be what they are. But I love that you can use these abstract stamps like the swoosh in so very many different ways. So here's a great way to save time if you're just making one of these or a few of these, ways to save a little bit more time and a little bit of ink actually. So I have my card stack in the stamparatus. I put the swoosh stamp across the top where I want the top one to start and attach it to my stamping plate. Now what I'm going to do is actually lift that out and move it down 2 of those hinge steps. I want to start at the bottom on this one, and I am going to stamp with the darkest color at the bottom, and then I'm going to repeat stamp the next 2 times without re-inking. So this saves a little bit of time and it saves a little bit of ink as well. Now I could start at the top with this, but I really like how it looks with the darkest color at the bottom. So that's why I wanted to start with the 3rd step and move my way up. Now for stamping the interest and the greeting over top, I have mounted my stamps to the top plate. Another really nice feature about the stamparatus is the 2 plates that come with it. So I can mount the swoosh to the plate on the right, I can mount the other stamps to the plate at the top and have them ready right there to stamp and put over top without having to do any rearranging or any other work. Once we have the stamp set up like this, you can really make a lot of cards quickly. So we can do what we just did. We could stamp with one color like I did and do the stamping off where you get the lighter and lighter result as you keep stamping without re-inking. Or even if you want to switch up the colors and use several different colors of ink, this can still go really quickly. So stamp those swooshes add the stamps over top, and you can really get a lot of cards quickly with this design and these techniques. Think about how you can use this in your stamping. Could you use this for Christmas cards? Could you use it for shower or wedding invitations or thank yous? Or you have a friend who needs to send out maybe cards, thank yous for any of those occasions. What kind of cards do you need a lot of that you could use this technique for to create a lot of them quickly? Or you could set this up and stamp a lot of backgrounds and have these backgrounds on hand and just stamp something over top with a greeting when the time comes. That's actually a really great way. Keep some of these on hand, stamp something over top when you know you need a birthday card or you know you need a sympathy card, and have that ready even faster. Thanks so much for watching along today. I appreciate you. If you are new here, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in any of the products I use, you can find links in the video description below. I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.